Board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Valmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Present.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Boyd. 14 present. You have quorum.
A quorum being present, we will dispense with line item 3 and move directly to our special order of the day. Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing courtesy resolutions number 58, 59, and 60.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing courtesy resolutions 58, 59, and 60.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing courtesy resolutions 58, 59, and 60. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Valmer. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Boyd. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to take up or to introduce resolutions number 58, 59, and 60. With that, we will dispense with the regular order of business to take up the courtesy resolution calendar. Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on resolution number 58. If you would like to approach the dais. Honored guests may approach the dais as well.
Come on up here, Mom Man Action. Yes. Madam Clerk, can you please read Resolution 58?
Resolution 58, National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas the City of St. Louis Board of Aldermen recognizes June 7th as the National Gun Violence Awareness Day to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence and to declare that we as a country must do more to reduce gun violence. Whereas dying from gun violence includes suicide, homicides, mass shootings, legal intervention, and accidental shootings. Nearly 1,000 Americans die every week from gun-related injuries. Americans are 26 more times likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries. Whereas firearm injuries surpass motor vehicle accidents as the leading cause of child deaths in 2020. A team of researchers led by Mary Burden, MD, examined cases of children that presented at St. Louis Children's Hospital between 2014 and 2017 with firearm injuries. This team found that 72% of the children were shot outdoors by an unknown shooter, whose motivation was unknown in 93% of the cases. Whereas in 2023, at least 68 children aged 17 or younger were killed or injured by guns, and those 21 were aged 11 or younger, and whereas on average 1,351 people tragically lost their lives due to gun violence, An additional 2,312 people were injured by firearms in Missouri, making it the state with the 8th highest rate of gun violence. Whereas in January 2013, Hadiya Pendleton, a teenager in Chicago who marched in the presidential inaugural parade, was tragically shot and killed just 9 days later, should be celebrating her 27th birthday. Whereas to help honor Hadiya and other victims of gun violence, as well as many survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizers has designated June 7, 2024, the first Friday in June as the 9th National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange during the first week of June to help raise awareness about gun violence and commemorate all gun violence victims and survivors. Whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now, therefore, let it be resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberation to recognize June 7th as National Gun Violence Awareness Day and encourage all citizens to support their local community's effort to prevent gun violence and to honor and value human lives. We further direct the clerk of the board to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of the proceedings and prepare a commemorative copy to the end that it may be presented to the honoree at a time and place deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this 7th day of June, 2024, by the Honorable Shamim Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman of the 10th Ward, and the co-sponsors include President Green, Daniela Velasquez, Laura Keys, and Alderman Rasheen Aldridge. Introduced this 7th day of June, 2024.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. So as a proud mother, a proud mom that demands action, and you know I'm going to say it, about to be a grandmother that demands action, it's an honor to be up here and introduce and celebrate you all's work. What I want to say and what I felt like I needed to say this morning to you all before my colleagues speak is I want you to not get weary in your well-doing. Because when I look at you all and I see you all when you show up every time, not just on the first Friday, but throughout the year, you all show up, show out, like they say. Your presence makes a difference. Every time you speak, it makes a difference. Every time you send letters, it makes a difference. Every time you send emails, it makes a difference. Here, coming up off of a very violent weekend, yet another very violent weekend here in the city of St. Louis. Still, being able to stand here and bring attention and awareness and advocate alongside you all brings me, again, as a mother and as a mother of a victim of gun violence, it gives me hope. It still gives me hope. So I thank you all for your work. I thank you all, and I stand proudly in support, behind, beside, whatever I can do in my position. We all have a role to play. No one person, no one entity, no one organization, no one, anything is going to solve this problem here. Not just in the city of St. Louis, but in our region and in our country. So thank you all. Thank you all for your efforts. And again, I'm going to say it again, please don't get weary. If you ever get weary, I got a few people y'all can call that'll prop you up, starting with me.
Thank you. My name is Sharon Williams, and I am one of the co-leads of the St. Louis City local group of Moms Demand Action. And I was going to tell you about Hadiya, but I'm glad that that was spoken of. I'd like to mention that Wear Orange is now observed every June, and thousands of people wear the color orange to honor Hadiya and the more than 43,000 Americans that are killed with guns and approximately 76,000 more that are shot and wounded every year. Today, myself and my co-leads of the St. Louis City local group, Najwa Allen, Celicia Blackwell, and Precious Jones, stand here before you as mothers and a sister who have lost our loved ones to gun violence. We accept this proclamation in honor of our former co-lead, Tanya Finley McCaw, who passed away earlier this year, and our children William Rayford, Preston J. Jones Sr., Corey Blackwell Gines, Jonicia Murray, and Sister Ananda Allen. We will continue our mission advocating for gun sense laws and trauma-informed care for survivors of gun violence in this city, in this state, and in this country. Thank you.
You have a poem? Okay, come on up.
Good morning. I'm Shalisa Blackwell. Gun violence. In a world engulfed by pain and strife, where echoes of gunfire cut through our lives. A heart-wrenching issue we must address through a poem I'll strive to express. In this dark tale where tears are shed, lives shattered by guns, fears widespread. Gun violence takes a devastating toll, leaving scars that linger within the soul. A mother's sorrow, a father's despair, lives lost too soon, it's just not fair. Innocent souls with dreams unfulfilled, silenced forever, their voices stilled. Let's heal our land, mend these wounds, striving for progress, united as a platoon. No more shattered lives, no more pain. Only through unity can peace sustain. So let us rise, hand in hand, unite against violence, let's take a stand. Together we can shape a brighter day where gun violence fades far away. Thank you.
Thank you, Moms Demand, for coming today and coming every year. This is one of the days that we look forward to at the board because we know you're out there every single day doing the work, and we want to thank you for that. I think I'd also be remiss to, not say that even though this past year gun violence was down in our city, we know it is still nowhere near the levels that are acceptable. And honestly, no level is acceptable. And while we are making strides as a city, doing historical investments in the Office of Violence Prevention, working to get at the root causes of violence in our community, investing more in mental health services, the fact of the matter is we also need to be able to regulate firearms. And we hear it every day from our constituents in the city that we need to be able to regulate firearms. And it breaks our hearts every time we have to tell folks that we are not allowed to do that locally. And people ask why, and we say, well, we have this thing where the state legislature is above our local government in terms of what rules we can do. And so I don't want to just thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for your tireless work of going to Jefferson City over and over and over again. Sometimes banging your head up against a wall, I know it must feel like. We've heard stories of, the days that Moms Demand comes, people close their doors because they don't want to have the conversation with you because they're having the conversations with the NRA. And we really appreciate the amount of work and perseverance because one day the straw on the camel's back has got to break. And one day our laws in this state have got to go back to a way where they make sense, right? We're asking for common sense gun laws and gun intervention. So thank you for the often thankless, tireless work of doing that advocacy day in and day out, and sometimes being, met with vitriol and not the welcoming open arms that you have here today. And know that the Board of Aldermen stands with you. We appreciate that work. We appreciate your voices. Those voices are essential to moving this in the direction that we need to move it. And my hope is that in the not too distant future, when you come back for Wear Orange Day, we're able to celebrate some movement on gun regulation in our city and in our state, and nationally. So thank you so much. And if we want to, I'll take other comments, and then if we want to get a picture with Moms Demand, we can as well. So is there any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I wanted to thank Moms Demand Action. I've gotten to see y'all's work up close and personal, and when we had a school shooting, during that time I served on the Board of Education, but you guys were also very supportive to the students behind the scenes as far as their organizing efforts, and it was very reassuring to them. And just a few weeks ago, there was a 15-year-old that was murdered in Gravois Park by gun violence, and so certainly this is an issue that plagues our city. And it's, I think while we're talking about Moms Demand Action, one of the things that we should highlight, and that I hope our state understands, that it's our children, our babies, who are often the victims of gun violence. A 15-year-old has not had her freshman year of high school yet, had her entire life ahead of her, and is gone. And we know that happens all across our city. So I wanted to both thank Moms Demand Action and thank the sponsor, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, for her work on this. And I wanted to move that we embank this.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 7th, seconded, by the Alderwoman from the 8th, that we embank resolution number 58. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I also just want to echo a huge thank you to Mom Demand Action. The work that y'all do is just tremendous. It is I'm kind of lost for words, because so many times, like Madam President said, when I was a state rep, I seen you guys up in the State House advocating, and those Republicans wouldn't even, open the door, let alone try to hear some of the things that you guys had to say. But the work y'all doing is changing lives. And to the St. Louis chapter, y'all are very special to me. My mom was one of the co-leads with you all, and, y'all started something in St. Louis. I was like, we see all this happening in, West County. We see it happening in South City, and we need to make sure we have some representation, and we need to make sure that our voices are being uplifted as well. I want to thank you for the work that y'all are doing. Thank you for, during those trying times, wrapping your arms around me and my family, and it is not go remiss. You all are family to me, and anything that I ever can do to help, you always got me and 10 toes down standing with y'all, so thank you so much.
Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Thank you, Moms Demand. I want to also thank my colleagues here. We always stand up and we always stand proud against gun violence. This is one issue that I think that this board absolutely stands united on, protecting our residents and our kids. As a victim myself of gun violence, I really appreciate all your work. And I want to thank my colleagues for coming to the table. I know it was a small step last summer that we took here legislatively, but there was a lot of work here on the ground that many of my colleagues, in fact, every single one of my colleagues participated in. And although it's a small step, it's what we can do. And it's those small steps, I think, that make us move this movement forward. Thank you for all your hard work. And thank you for coming down and spending time with us to raise awareness and support the work that we can do here at the Board of Aldermen.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none at this time, if we would like to get a picture with Moms Demand, please come on.
right. Homer's standalone grandpa.
What? What? Aren't these cute? I gotta yell. I think she wanted to be last day.
Okay. Thank you again to Moms Demand for coming to the board today and for your tireless advocacy. This time we are going to take up our next courtesy resolution. Aldermen from the 4th, you are recognized on Resolution 60 if you would like to approach the dais and invite your special guests up as well.
Let's sit here. Okay. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. If the former members of the Riverfront Times and their tiny children could join me. Madam Clerk, could you please read Resolution 60?
Resolution 60, honoring the staff of the Riverfront Times. Whereas alternative media is crucial in documenting the voices, experience, and thoughts of any region. And whereas the Riverfront Times was founded in 1977, giving the St. Louis region an alternative voice regarding politics, music, art, food, and advice. Whereas the Riverfront Times remained free during its entire run, ensuring all people of the region had access to alternative viewpoints on a weekly basis, in newsprint and later both in newsprint and online. And whereas the alternative coverage provided the region with alternative views of the local, national, political, local, and touring music acts and venues, art galleries, exhibits, and local cuisine for nearly 50 years. Whereas the reporting of the Riverfront Times broke stories that could not be told in other forms of media and engaged in long-form investigative journalism other media outlets are not engaged in. Whereas the work of the staff of the Riverfront Times led to more than 36 awards from the Missouri Press Association, along with the association's Gold Cup. And whereas this important alternative voice for the region would not have been possible without the work of all former staff from 1977 to 2024. And whereas Sarah Finsky, Daniel Hill, Jessica Rogan, Ryan Kroll, Zachary Harris, Callie Cox, Paula Treadway, Laura Harpold, Evan Salt, Madison Pregon were the final members of the Riverfront Times. And whereas these staff members embody the integrity, resilience, compassion, community advocacy, and comedic styles of the City of St. Louis cherish. Now, therefore, let it be resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause to recognize, honor, and thank all former staff of the Riverfront Times for their many contributions to the City of St. Louis and wish them all the best on their next chapter in life. We further direct the Clerk of the Board of Aldermen to spread a copy of the resolution across the minutes of the proceedings and prepare a commemorative copy of the resolution to the end that it may be presented deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this 7th day of June by the Honorable Brett Narayan, Alderman of the 4th Ward, and the following co-sponsors: President Megan Green and Honorable Shamim Clark Hubbard, 10th Ward Alderwoman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of the board, sitting down to write this resolution was a bit odd for me because it felt as much like a eulogy as it did a resolution. I think that the work that was done by the people standing behind me and those before them had an impact on everyone in the region, and now there's an RFT-sized hole in the media landscape of St. Louis. The work done by the writers, photographers, and editors of the Riverfront Times over the years was just different than most other media work. Yes, they did incredible coverage of politics and other long-form investigative journalism stories, like stress testing all-you-can-drink bars, long stories on the golden age of hijacking planes in the city of St. Louis, tracking down members of the KKK and showing us how absurd their lives really are, and even traveling to the gathering of the Juggalos in Jane Goodall-esque fashion to embed themselves there and show us average Joes what actually happens there. But mostly, the work of the RFT was about the future. That was the difference. Most media is about what happened, but the RFT was about what was going to happen. What show you were going to go to, what restaurant you were going to this weekend, what art exhibit was going to be in town. As a region, we made plans based on the content of the work that went on at the paper, and small businesses thrived based on good coverage, whereas without that coverage, some of us may have never set foot in their establishment. Now, with the Riverfront Times gone, there's a sadness. But like everything else, when something large leaves, a vacuum is created. I can't wait to see what exciting alternative voices we hear next, and I know that when we do hear them, we'll be hearing them from the voices of the people behind me now. And I want to thank you all for your work here in the region, and I look forward to seeing your next chapters. I think I can speak for the entire board when I say that we're cheering for you all to have a vibrant future and giving us the same information that, as a region, we've come to rely on for nearly half a century. Thank you all. And if you would like to say a few words, anyone, please feel free.
Sorry for any of the work that we did that might have made your jobs hard. We'd do it again.
Might have been one of the best and most succinct commentary we've ever had on this dais. So, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Alderman from the 3rd.
This only works for me.
Doesn't pick up my bravado, I guess. Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to all of the staff and editorial members at the RFT. It is very sad and very frustrating to see the consolidation of local media into conglomerates across the country. It's not an anomaly to St. Louis, but it impacts us all deeply. As my colleague from the 4th Ward mentioned, even just the good things that are happening in St. Louis were elevated through local media and through the RFT. The best of lists, everything that happened there that just collectively raised the consciousness of our community and created a better environment for all of us to live in. And of course, then there were many stories that brought attention not only to city government, but issues that affect our communities, whether that's slumlords or surveillance programs or pay-to-play actions that happened in this very building from time to time. And so I think the work that you all do is invaluable. And I commend each of you for continuing, hopefully, in that same endeavor to make our community a better and stronger place for everyone and to elevate the voices of St. Louis and the work that you do each and every day. And I cannot thank you enough for everything that you have already contributed to this city. Thank you.
Alderman from the 9th.
Thank you. I just want to echo my colleagues' comments. It's a sad day. Riverfront Times was fun. It was accessible. It covers stories large and small. There certainly will be a hole in the landscape, and I am concerned about the media landscape in St. Louis following this closure, but I do know that there is a future out there as long as there are good writers out there who will continue this work. There's so many writers that got their start at the Riverfront Times and went on to great things, including, Anne Freud, Mike Fitzgerald. I'm thinking of Kay Petrin, who broke a story about slumlords in St. Louis that eventually led to a complete stop of them operating and opening new places in St. Louis. So we just owe so much to the staff of the Riverfront Times, both former and current, and we just couldn't be sorrier to see this go. But we look forward to seeing what you will accomplish in the future and wish you the best of luck.
Alderwoman from the 8th.
Madam President, members of the board, I just want to echo gratitude for the Riverfront Times and the sadness. I mean, really the hole that this is going to leave in our community is enormous. Not only, the work, highlighting all of the cultural, amazing, awesome things that are going on every weekend, every night, but the level of in-depth reporting that the Riverfront Times did on a consistent weekly basis, going deep into issues, was unparalleled in our community. And it made an enormous difference, highlighting some of the challenges and some of the very, serious issues going on within our community. I'm so grateful for that work, and just really grateful for the work that you all have done over the many, many years, and the publication has served in our community. We really will miss you.
Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I would be remiss, actually, this being Pride Month, to not acknowledge the RFT, which, for those of you that may not remember or may not have been around or of age at the time, when I was just a teenager, the RFT was known as an alternative paper. And part of the reason that it was because it also uplifted queer voices in its pages, which I think during the month of Pride is a really important thing to acknowledge, because we continue to see less and less coverage of issues that impact our LGBT and queer communities here in St. Louis as well. And as a young kid, this was before the internet, the RFT actually was placed for LGBTQIA people to explore, to connect. The classified section was actually a very popular section back in the day and a very colorful one to read. I wish I had one in front of me so I could read some of the classifieds that were there, because they were always very entertaining. But it's a sad acknowledgement of the loss that we are experiencing, but a proud acknowledgement of everything that paper has done to help elevate not just the city of St. Louis, but communities that otherwise did not have a voice in the mainstream media. And so as a young Gaby who grew up reading the RFT, reading the classifieds, not necessarily calling the numbers that were on the classifieds, but at least getting a kick out of the ads. and a little bit of a learning experience in some cases. I do want to, I do have to, I did not call any of them. I was a little afraid to do that, but it did at least give me some exposure into the person that I was and am, and otherwise would not have known. And so I really, I don't. You all probably weren't even there at the time, but it is something that really does mean a lot to me in my history. And it's really sad and frustrating to see that go away. So again, thank you for all of your efforts in lifting up the collective voices of St. Louis.
Alderwoman,
Thank you so much, Madam President, members of the board. So even just in your presence today, we're learning more about our colleagues. So thank you for all you've done and will continue to do. I would like to make resolution number 60 in bank.
it's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 1st, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we make resolution 60 in bank. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? I definitely want to thank you for all of your amazing journalism over the years. And I do want to correct one thing you said, though. I don't think that you made our jobs harder. I think you made us do our jobs better. That is that is the role of media to a large extent, is to be doing the investigative reporting, to shine a light on issues that are not having a light shown on them, and in a lot of cases pushing other media to then cover stories that you were the first to cover, and getting some of these stories into mainstream media that probably otherwise would not have gotten that coverage. So this is a very huge hole, I think, in our local media landscape, especially as it relates to our arts community and music community and local government community, because there's not a lot of resources in a lot of media organizations that are dedicated toward covering local government, and even though the decisions we make locally sometimes have a bigger impact on people's day-to-day lives than things that happen at the state and federal level. So thank you so much. And I see I have one more person up at the mic here, Alderwoman from the 12th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I moved to St. Louis in 1978. Thereabout in 79 or 80, I started to read the Riverfront Times. I've read it all these years. I've watched the different ownerships come and go and come back again. I do appreciate the investigative reporting that you do. I think that is very important to keep people on their toes, to let them know somebody is watching. And it's also very important to have newspapers that have a different perspective. When you have everybody in your ear saying the same thing, that is not good for you in politics, in life, or anything else. I am probably one of the best comeback kids you ever seen. The reports of my death are often exaggerated, and I come back time and time, 30-something years of coming back. I expect to see each of you at some other form of, if not newspaper, online service. And who knows, maybe somebody will recognize how important the Riverfront Times, and they will bring it back. Or if they don't bring it back, it may be called something else, but maybe you all will still be working on news and doing the things that you do so well. And I appreciate it. And it's good sometimes to see the people in person, because I've talked to some people on the phone or whatever like that, but it's good to see you here, and I appreciate all the work you do, and I don't think we're going to miss you that much, because I think we will see all of your work in some form or another, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just want to echo a lot of the sentiments from my colleagues. I want to thank the Riverfront Times. While the Alderwoman from the 12th is the best comeback kid, I'll take the title as best new kid on the block, because when I first started, kind of running for office. You guys covered a lot of the stories with myself and Bruce Franks and Corey Bush, this new progressive wave, the committee people that was running while other medias didn't want to. So like many said, you covered stories that other outlets didn't. You gave a voice to people that were new to St. Louis. You gave a voice to people that felt maybe unheard to St. Louis. And the work that y'all did is just tremendous. It will not be forgotten. And looking forward to seeing many of you in different roles. And I will always pick up the phone like I have in the past if you want a good story of what's going on down here at the board. I'm not going to lie to you guys. So thank you for all the work you do.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, then Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar.
Madam President, members of the board, I move that we adopt the courtesy resolutions consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And at this time, if you want to join us on the stairs for a photo, we would love to take.
Nice headband, Alderwoman. Nice headband.
We got one more.
Kevin has one. One more.
Too quick, too quick.
All right.
Right. Introduction of honored guests. Any introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to take the opportunity to thank everyone here at the Board of Aldermen for calling, for texting, for praying for me. Everybody in this room, just take a breath. Take a breath. We take breaths for granted. And in thinking about the respiratory infection that I just got past, and I thought about, my goodness, how vital your breath is. Every breath helps your body to function. And so I am truly grateful to be off of a nebulizer machine. I am truly grateful for all of the residents of the 11th Ward. The news, I guess, spread like wildfire. Everybody was texting or sending me messages of well wishes. Even some business owners, heard that I was not well and reached out. But more importantly, family and friends and my wonderful nurse husband, James Keys, who did so much in taking care of me throughout that illness. And I want to thank whoever had the great idea to put these two fans right here. So women of a certain age, we have those personal summers. And so when I sat down and I was like, ooh, thank you, Jesus. I got two fans. So thank you to everyone. Everybody here at the Board of Aldermen is my honored guest today. The residents, business owners, family, and friends are my honored guests. I thank you so much. In the immortal words of Freeman Bosley Sr., it's good to be seen. Thank you, and it's good to be back.
Welcome back, Alderwoman. Alderwoman from the 10th, I'll go to Alderwoman from the 8th.
All right, thank you, Madam President, members of the board. For my honored guest today, I would like to have all the attendees yesterday for the 33rd annual Forest Park Forever Hat Luncheon. You know, we like to say 33 is Jesus' year, and I'll say it showed out yesterday because we broke records, not only in attendance with it being sold out, but also in people that joined, either renewed their membership or joined. I'm a little biased. I feel like a couple of our colleagues should have won. One being Alderwoman Keys, who was a whole theme with her hat and her outfit, and the other, of course, being Alderman Cone, who showed out with his hat as well. But that's okay. Maybe next year we'll come back next year and win it all. But again, thank you. That private partnership, public partnership that Forest Park Forever continues to be the example of in the city. It just makes all the difference in the world and how we have been able to care for our beloved Forest Parks. Again, thank you. We had a good time, and I look forward to seeing everyone next.
Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'd like to have as my honored guests today Michelle Lee, Peter Tao, and Danny Poon as we finally pass, third read and finally pass Board Bill 32 as amended, authorizing the honorary street name of On Leong Way today.
Thank you. Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. As my honored guest, I would like to have the staff of the Haven of Grace. They are a shelter over in my ward that help pregnant women make sure that they can get on their feet. They do a lot of great work. They have homes for women as they are about to become pregnant, and then once they actually deliver their baby, they allow for them to be able to keep that family there from the age of 1 going all the way up to the age of 11. They're doing great work. I just want to say thank you to all the staff over there. Also, as my honored guest, I would love to have back the Alderwoman from the elevated 11th Ward. We've been missing them work shirts, and none like an orange work shirt today, so glad to have you back. And as we was talking about media, I also want to have our friends behind us from Channel 5 here, so thank them for being in the building covering this great educational Board of Aldermen meeting that has been going on for about almost an hour now. Started, so thank you.
Alderwoman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President and the board. I have two honored guests today. One honored guest, he probably is going to look like, why am I honored guest? Is the clerk Terry Kennedy. And I want to personally and publicly thank him for dealing with the budget committee, making sure that we were on point, getting things done, and keeping us targeted on what our goal was in regards to our budget for the new year. And then also, I want to ask for a moment of silence to remember my friend and a lot of you all's colleague, Alderman Gregory Carter. His birthday was yesterday, and I just wanted to remember him on this day.
We could please bow our heads for a moment of silence. Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I would also like to commend Forest Park Forever for their efforts. Yesterday it was a very good time. I do want to have as my honored guests today Larry Rhodes from the Comptroller's Office. For those of you that might not know Larry, he is the Comptroller's liaison for the Board of Aldermen now. He's been down here for a couple weeks now, but I don't know if any of us have actually publicly acknowledged him. So I do want to have him as my honored guest this morning and encourage all of you to introduce yourself to him and get to know him. And then in addition to Larry, we also have Charles Salisbury. He is bond counsel to the Comptroller's Office and also helps with a lot of the efforts out at Lambert St. Louis International Airport. So happy to have both of them here today, especially as we continue on our very large journey towards redesigning Lambert International Airport. Thank you both.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Any further introduction of? Yes. Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the approval of the minutes from Friday, May 31st, 2024.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we approve the minutes from Friday, May 31st, 2024.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th, that we approve the minutes from Friday, May 31st, 2024. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, and C of the agenda and has been placed in the Google Drive for your review. Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individual for appointment to the Locust Central Special Business District. Julian Davis. I respectfully request your approval of this appointment. Sincerely, to Shara O. Jones, Mayor.
Alderwoman from the 11th, you are recognized on Mayor Jones' appointments to the Locust Central Special Business District.
It's kind of a mouthful. Thank you again, Madam President. Julian Davis is a volunteer at St. Louis Family Courts. He's a member of the Carpenters Union. He is a carpenter and owns construction company, Fitzgerald Construction. He's a member of the Missouri Athletic Club, and he has invested $1.6 million in the purchase and rehab of the bistro, Rouge Bistro on Olive in the elevated 11th Ward. He is also a member of the Associated General Contractors, and he is the owner of Fitzgerald Signature Properties. With that said, I would ask for your favorable consideration and approval of Julian Davis to the Locust Business District.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 11th, seconded by, do we have a second? Seconded by the Alderwoman from the 12th, that we approve Mayor Jones' appointments to the Locust Central Special Business District. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for the appointment to the Great Rivers Greenway Metropolitan Park and Recreation District. The appointment of Brian Phillips, the appointment of Emily Bernstein, and the appointment of Lisa Suggs. I respectfully request your approval of these appointments. Sincerely, to Shara O. Jones, Mayor.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on Mayor Jones' appointments to the Great Rivers Greenway Metropolitan Park and Recreation District.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we move the appointments of Brian Phillips, Emily Bernstein, and Lisa Suggs to the Great Rivers Greenway Metropolitan Park and Recreation District to the Health and Human Development Committee.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we send Mayor Jones' appointments to the Great Rivers Greenway Metropolitan Park and Recreation District, the Health and Human Development Committee. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Does anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Does anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off any of our informal calendars? Anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Seeing none, Alderman from the 3rd, you are recognized on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing bills 50 and 51 for first.
It is not me. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I move to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bills 50 and 51 for first reading.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 10th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bills 50 and 51. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanier. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green,
Aye.
Alderman Balmer, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Aldridge, 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 3rd. If you could please place Board Bills 50 and 51 at the end of the first reading of Board Bills. First reading of Board Bills.
Board Bill 45, sponsored by Alderwoman Schweitzer, an ordinance making appropriation for payment of the operating expenses, capital expenses, including lease purchase agreement and debt service expenses for the Parking Division of the Treasurer's Office for fiscal year July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 in the sum of $20,436,391 for capital improvement, including $2,151,310 for capital improvements containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 46, the number was not used this session. Board Bill 47, sponsored by Alderman Cone and President Green, an ordinance recommended by and approved by the Airport Commission, the Board of Public Service, the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, establishing and authorizing a public works improvement program at St. Louis Lambert International Airport, providing for and consisting of capital improvement projects as more fully described in the attached Exhibit A, entitled Airport Use and Lease Agreement, Third Amendment Project List, containing a severability clause and an emergency clause. Board Bill 48, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge, an ordinance relating to the appointment of and salaries of certain employees of the St. Louis Board of Election Commissioners pursuant to 115.045 and 115.049 revised statutes of Missouri by repealing ordinance number 71702, allocating certain other employees to a grade with rate, including an emergency clause. The provision of the section contained in this ordinance shall be effective with the start of the first pay period after approval by the mayor. Board Bill 49, sponsored by Alderman Browning, an ordinance amending ordinance number 68807 to change the honorary designation of the 4400 block of Washington Boulevard from the Reverend James Brown Senior Boulevard to the honorary designation of Reverend James Brown Senior Avenue. Board Bill 50, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the establishment of an interim finance program to incur indebtedness with an aggregated principal amount not to exceed $650 million outstanding at any time to provide funds to finance, refinance airport improvement, pay capitalized interest, and pay cost of issuance, authorizing and directing the issuance of bonds to effect long-term financing to refinance its interim indebtedness, approving and authorizing the preparation, execution, delivery of necessary or appropriate documents and actions, repealing inconsistent ordinances containing a severability clause. Board Bill 51, sponsored by Alderwoman Schweitzer and Alderman Browning, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 69955, codified as Chapter 3.110.120 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis, and in lieu thereof enacting a new ordinance relating to the Complete Streets policy for the City of St. Louis, relating to the standards and guiding principles for the planning, design, construction, or reconstruction of any public right-of-way to consider all users, containing provisions for contractors and utilities relating to the blocking and closure of the public right-of-way, containing a severability clause. That's the extent of first reading of board bills.
Reference to Committee of Board Bills.
To the Public Infrastructure Committee, Board Bill 45 and 49. To the Budget Committee, Board Bill 48. And to Transportation and Commerce, Board Bill 47.
And if we could please send 50 to Transportation and Commerce and 51 to Public Infrastructure.
So noted.
Second reading, report of standing committees.
The following board bill was reported out of Transportation and Commerce Committee with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 24, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the Director of Airports and the Comptroller of the City of St. Louis, owner and operator of St. Louis Lambert International Airport, to enter into and execute the Third Amendment to the Airport Use and Lease Agreement with certain airlines, which was authorized by Ordinance Number 70273, approved May 25th, 2016, Ordinance Number 71295, approved December 11th, 2020, Ordinance Number 71589, approved December 16th, 2022, containing a severability clause. That's the extent of second reading. Report of standing committees.
Report of special committees.
We have none.
Board bills for perfection consent.
Board Bill 17, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, an ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission on April 17, 2024, to change the zoning of property as indicated on the district map from K unrestricted district to the D multiple family dwelling district in City Block 847, so as to include the described parcel land in City Block 847 containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 27, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, an ordinance establishing a four-way stop site at the intersection of Grape Avenue and Terra Lane, regulating all traffic traveling on Grape Avenue and Terra Lane at the intersection of Grape Lane and Terra Avenue. Board Bill 28, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps pursuant to Ordinance Number 70333, as amended by Ordinance Number 71394 to calm the flow of traffic on the 5500 block of Era Avenue, the 1800 block of Eaton Avenue, the 5600 block of Hiller Place, the 5900 block of Park Lane, and the 5000 block of Claxton Avenue. Board Bill 39, sponsored by Alderwoman Sanye, pursuant to Ordinance Number 70333, as amended by Ordinance Number 71394, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on various blocks within the 7th Ward. That is the extent of board bills for perfection consent calendar.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the board bills for the perfection consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we adopt the board bills for perfection consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 7th, that we adopt the board bills for the perfection consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Board bills for perfection.
Board Bill 34, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, repealing Ordinance Number 71822 in its entirety and amending Ordinance Number 71393, Ordinance Number 71494, Ordinance Number 71505, Ordinance Number 71554, Ordinance Number 71561, Ordinance Number 71591, Ordinance Number 71592, and Ordinance Number 71650 by reappropriating certain amounts specified herein in an aggregated amount of $13,819,393.64 for other purposes with an emergency clause.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the perfection of Board Bill 34.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that perfect Board Bill 34.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we perfect Board Bill number 34. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Board Bill 34, we know this is about the third or fourth iteration of this same process that we went through here down with our colleagues. The work, I think this is one of the examples of the collective work that we've done down here with not just our administration, but the mayor's office. We're being able to bring and come together with these allocations, these reprogramming, reallocations, when we noticed that some of these funds, the funds available here, would not be able to be programmed in time. And so it went through the process, and now we're going back through the process. And again, I'm just as excited about the example and the work that it did from our water infrastructure cheerleader being able to get what she needed, from our trees, people that reached out about wanting money for their trees to be removed, from the Office of Violence Prevention that you talked about, from our streets department, from our refuse department. So many different ways this money is going to impact and get right back down on the ground, which again, in committee, when we heard this in committee with a full presentation, that I said and stated that it shows where our values in the city of St. Louis are. Putting it back on the ground, reaching it at our constituents' doors, which is the very reason why we got this money in the first place. So with that, again, I'm open for any questions from some of my colleagues, and we will hopefully now perfect Board Bill 34.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, I rise in opposition of this board bill 34. I specifically rise in opposition to see ordinance 71494 included anywhere in that. I want to thank the now current alderman from the, what are you now, second? He and I, alderman from, it used to be the 16th, are you the second now? He and I worked on an agreement several years ago, 2 years ago in April. He's kept his part, I kept my part. Who didn't keep their part was the city. Some of this money that couldn't get done is because people held the money up. They purposefully held the money up. There is testimony, the Alderwoman from the 13th can tell you from the director of BPS saying that he was holding this money that was directed toward North St. Louis up until the mayor could come out with some gigantic street calming plan. That was the plan I heard about since the mayor became the mayor in April of 2021. I have a copy of the gigantic street calming plan that she had. It was some pavement of streets. For a director to hold up money purposefully that could have been spent is ridiculous. The Alderwoman from the 13th asked over and over and over again, because there were crucial monies that were put aside for North St. Louis. And she continued to ask, what happened to my money? I'm ready to get things done. Why aren't you doing it? They had told her that her project on, I want to say if it's Goodfellow, was, what's the term they use? Shovel ready. I know Kings Highway has been ready for a very long time because 28 years ago, BPS destroyed Kings Highway Memorial Boulevard, which is not the same as the rest of Kings Highway. Kings Highway Memorial Boulevard was a special memorial done for people who had served in the service. And if you drive Kings Highway, that part is the green median. I represent every portion of it. And it is a special part. People like to call it North Kings Highway. It is not. And my community was in outrage because about the same time, 28 years ago, the first black mayor got all of a sudden said, oh my God, I'm in trouble. And he started to do something on Kings Highway we never asked. That's the only part of Kings Highway that they made our median smaller, cut down all our trees. Imagine going out to Kirkwood or Webster Groves and doing that. You would be out of office, and this person is out of office. We wrote letters from all our neighborhoods saying, don't do that. This is going to make this a major highway, just in a residential part. My part of Kings Highway Memorial Boulevard, which runs from Martin Luther King to West Florissant, is mostly residential. And that's what happened. Not only did it happen, but people got killed on Kings Highway. They got killed on my very corner. There was no curbs. They only put the curbs after they made the median bigger. They took the curbs and they made the curbs on the median about this high, 4 or 5 inches. And they did nothing with the curbs along the sidewalk. So people jumped the sidewalk and 7 people were murdered. That's what I call it, murder, because BPS did it wrong. They also changed the grade of how things were supposed to run. They messed up the sewer. We have flooding. So here it is, 28 years later. The same thing is happening with this mayor right now. They're running out now and throwing in some curbs. They're not fixing the problem. It's going to still be the same problem. They're not fixing the grade. We put this money aside to do it correctly, but it was set on for 2 years. They set on the money, and they did not let it get spent. So it wasn't like some of these things, as ARPA funds is being transferred, where it could not have been done. When we passed the ARPA funds, they said, we're going to transport people to get an abortion, and we're going to take them over to Illinois. I voted against that because I thought that was not a proper thing to put in ARPA funds, because we already knew that Jefferson City was going to come after us. Who knew that the Supreme Court was going to come after us? Anyway, we put that money, if we were going to do that, that should have been put in a separate pot of money, and that money set up over and over. There are several programs just like this that were never going to be done. They were pie-in-the-sky ideas that were not going to be done. But this brick and mortar here in ordinance 71494, that all could be done, and it could have been done and finished by now. Instead, it did not get done. That's on BPS, Rich Bradley. That's on Nancy Cross. That's on Mayor Tashara Jones. It makes no sense at all. As I said before, if I heard the alderwoman from the 13th ask once, she asked at least 1 million times, where is the money? Why can't we get started? Till finally, when I was the chair of streets, we had Rich Bradley had to come down to street department and testify that he was sitting on the money and holding it. So I am not in favor of taking this money and redistributing it. I also am not in favor for another reason. And that's, as I've never seen so much put together as to say, we need this because there's been a lawsuit recently about the earnings tax. I have never supported any of the exceptions to people paying earnings tax. In fact, I'm going to bring my board bill back next week about the exceptions we've done for earnings tax. We've taken a hit with a lawsuit on the earnings tax because we took money from some people who worked at home and we lost that lawsuit. But we did win a lawsuit that we gave up a lot of money on, and that was Ralston Purina, and the people who got to have their dividends not taxed. We've been doing that, even though we won the lawsuit to do that, we've been giving them an exception. And I voted against it back 20-something years ago, and we're still doing it. We didn't get it out of committee. I will be bringing it back again. I'm going to put stuff in y'all's box so you can read about how people fooled us. I did before the committee provide all of the committee with the documentation about how we were fooled. And so now here we come again. Now this time we actually lost the lawsuit, but it's not the great loss that everyone thinks. The lawsuit was only specifically to the people who filed the lawsuit. Unless there's some kind of class action, when people say we're going to lose all this money, that's not true. So if this money is because we're in anticipation of losing all the money, that's not true. But it really has no business. Ordinance 71494 has no business in this board bill to be redistributed. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves. Rich Bradley ought to be ashamed. He himself knows that right now, if you drive down Kings Highway, they're like, well, you're getting curbs. If it doesn't work and it's just going to be a mess and it's a political ploy for people to say they're doing something, then it's a waste of money. And that's what I told them over and over. Don't do this. Do it right. Spend the money. And that money was put there for it to be done right. It is not being done right. Today, when I left my house, I live one house away from Kings Highway. It looked like somebody had poured the whole city into my ward. There were people everywhere, people that we couldn't get to do things. They were doing all these things now. It makes no sense that you're doing it now and you're doing it wrong. You're out there cleaning out the bed, you're doing all of that, but you're taking the money and you're thinking that I'm going to be okay with that. When I stayed up to redistribute that money, which was not ARPA funds, even though it was hidden in a bill about ARPA funds, it was because I discovered I've been for 10 years, 12 years now, 11 years, getting information about how money was spent all over the city and how money was spent in other parts of the community and not in North St. Louis. And it's such an imperfect balance, and it's egregious balance of what was spent and what was not, that when I brought it, and I sent it to the mayor, I sent it to the comptroller, then president of the board, Louis Reed, saying, are you looking at this money? So that was an agreement that to give that money as some kind of balance to the monies that have not been spent for North St. Louis over the years. Because it's a ridiculous amount. And I said I wouldn't say anything about it because we had an agreement. But I don't feel that I'm bound to that agreement anymore, because we're going to take this money away after somebody was allowed to sit on it, and we're going to do a butchered job on Kings Highway. We'll have all the problems and more. And we think that we can throw some curbs in. And the only people who had any say, because we had a hearing about, we had a meeting about Imagine Kings Highway after they had already dug the curbs up and was putting the curbs back in. Then you have a meeting. You're not trying to have people be part of it. The only person who got what they want in our whole community was the hair store, which is ridiculous at Martin Luther King's and Kings Highway. That has that makes it look like that all black people want is this fake hair. Now he got what he want but not the people who live in the community. He's one of the people that we have a shooting at the gas station every month. If you go to that Crown gas station at Martin Luther King and Kings Highway, but he got what he wanted. But the people who live in the community did not get anything, and this is ridiculous that we're taking the money. I'm opposed to it. And so then the only thing I have to do is be able to vote against it and start just bringing out the kinds of monies that have been spent in other parts of the community that have not been spent fairly in our community. And for somebody to sit on it and then say we have to reappropriate it is ridiculous. So I am opposed to it. I remained opposed to it. I kept my word about it. Some of these other things I voted against, it never was going to be. But this particular one should have gotten done, and it didn't get done purposefully.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I renew my motion that we perfect Board Bill 34.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we perfect Board Bill number 34. There's been a request for roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Oldenburg. Aye. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. Aye. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
No.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman.
Present.
Thank you. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Keys. Eleven aye votes, 1 no vote, and 1 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to perfect Board Bill number 34.
Board Bill 40, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, Alderwoman Schweitzer, Alderman Balmer, and Alderwoman Sanye. An ordinance authorizing the City of St. Louis by and through its Forestry Commissioner of the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry to accept a grant award from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Forest Service, Urban and Community Forestry Inflation Reduction Act grant program in the amount of $8 million containing an emergency clause.
Alderwoman from the 13th, you're recognized on the perfection of Board Bill 40. Is Alderwoman from the 13th still with us?
I can put the rest in my truck. Well, I'm gonna take the heavy stuff. No, I can have my husband get it, you fine.
Alderwoman from the 1st, would you like to? Okay, Alderman from the 5th, go ahead.
Anyone can have it. Okay, watch this. At the request of the sponsor, I'll be handling Board Bill 40. This is simply us authorizing to get a grant of $8 million to help out with the Forest Commission, Department of Parks. And with that, I renew my motion.
You need to first make the motion to perfect.
Well, I'm getting old, I forgot. I move that we perfect Board Bill number 40.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we perfect Board Bill number 40. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Report of engrossment.
Board Bill 26 and 32 as amended.
Third reading and final passage of Board Bills consent.
Board Bill 26 and 32 as amended.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the third reading and final passage of Board Bills on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the third reading and final passage of Board Bills on consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills on the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Just want to point out to folks in the gallery and anyone paying attention at home, Board Bill 32 as amended, which is the street sign for On Leong Way at Busch Stadium, is on this consent calendar. I don't want to pull it off because I think it's awesome that we're passing this in bank and by consent, but I just want people to know that when we pass this by consent, it is headed to the mayor's desk, and it'll be out of this Board of Aldermen, which is awesome. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 8th.
I just wanted to echo that and just congratulate this board for unanimously approving historic recognition of On Leong Way this morning.
Thank you. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adopt the third final passage of board bills on the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanier. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanier. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderman Aldridge. 15 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to have third read and finally passed the aforementioned bills. Third reading and final passage of board bills.
We have none.
Report of finally passed and signed by the President.
Board Bill 26 and Board Bill 32 as amended.
All other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix her signature hereto to the end that these may become law.
Front door.
First reading of resolutions and reference to committees.
Resolution 57, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge and President Green, re-envisioning the workhouse recommendations.
Alderman from the 14th, you are recognized on the first reading of resolution number 57.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I request that this resolution go to public safety.
Is there a second? It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we send resolution number 57 to the Public Safety Committee. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Second reading resolutions, committee reports and adoptions.
We have none.
Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
We can dispense with line items 21 through 23. Announcements.
Monday, June 10th, 2024, Special Committee on Reducing Red Tape will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 3 p.m. Tuesday, June 11th, 2024, Transportations and Commerce will have a committee hearing in the Kennedy Room at 9 a.m. HUD will have a hearing at 2 p.m. in the Kennedy Room. Wednesday, June 12th, Public Infrastructure will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 3:30 p.m. Thursday, June 13th, Public Safety will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 2 p.m. Friday, June 14th, 2024, full board meeting in the chambers at 10 a.m. That's the extent of the announcements.
Any further announcements? Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I would actually like to ask for a silence. A friend of mine, a former constituent, I believe he's actually, or was a constituent in the 2nd Ward now, but David Thackwell was a city employee. He worked in the building division. Many of you probably remember him from the time that he was working in the front window, but in the last few years, moved to more of a back office area, doing accounts payable for the building division. And what you probably are more familiar with is that he was the one that was responsible for decorating City Hall around the holidays. And I just learned yesterday of his passing. He always brought such great joy to me as a constituent, having dinner with him on his place on South Grand, and just talking about various issues in the neighborhood and the community, and always with a laugh and a smile down here at City Hall, serving our constituents and making sure that bills got paid over in the building division, which is always really important. So I would respectfully request that we take a moment of silence for David.
If we could please stand and bow our heads for a moment of silence.
Thank you.
Any further announcements? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. I would like to invite the whole board in the city of St. Louis out to the best concert that is north of Delmar. The series kicked off yesterday. This is the Whitaker concert series that is in St. Louis Place, Reichenbach Park. Yesterday there was a tribute to Earth, Wind, and Fire. On June 13th, there will be a Master Touch of Soul. June 20th will be the Whitney Houston catalog, and then we will wrap up the series on June 7th with a Tina Turner tribute. This is put on by the St. Louis Place Neighborhood Association as well as Affinia Healthcare. It's a great time for people to come out. It's good music, good times, free food, barbecue, and a lot of good different vendors. And would love to have my colleagues, maybe we could plan an event to all go out together and just have a good time at the best concert in North St. Louis. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Well, first of all, I want to announce to the person that texted me about my beautiful flowers, they came from the Forest Park Forever hat luncheon yesterday, too, so thank you for the compliment. Everybody knows I always run away with centerpieces, so that's what I did. But I did, in line with that, rather, in Forest Park, we also have our amazing Missouri History Museum. And last night I was able to attend a panel on Pride, the history of Pride in St. Louis. It was an amazing panel put on by KSDK, Channel 5. I'm sure they covered it. And then tonight there's a sneak preview, and then the opening to Gateway to Pride exhibit. This exhibit has taken about 10 years for them to put together. It's an amazing exhibit, and it just speaks to, it really speaks to the fight that they had, the fights that they had and continue to have. And so I always stand in support and allyship with them on that. So the Gateway to Pride, this opening weekend celebration, and the exhibit is from 6 on the 8th till July the 6th, and the exhibit opens. And so make sure that you get in touch with or get on the website and see about the different things they're having to get ready for the opening of the Gateway to Pride exhibit at the Missouri History Museum. Thank you.
Alderman from the 5th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This Sunday, MAR Raceway will be at Botanical Avenue, and Macklin will have the annual St. Louis JC's Soapbox Derby. Time trials start 8 in the morning. There'll be an antique car show at the property of Shaw School right there, and at noon, Police Chief Tracy and Police Chief Jeckerson will be doing their annual race together. So come out, have a beer, watch the race, and enjoy the kids. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you, Madam President. Remind me to always go before Alderman Vollmer. He sounded like he was a professional announcer. So I would just like to let everybody know that Tire Amnesty Day is coming back. Our press release went out yesterday. We are encouraging people all over the city, derelict tires that have been illegally discarded on your street, vacant lots, alleys. On the 29th of June, our dumpsters will be set up. The locations are forthcoming. There'll be Grand University, Carter and Grand and Marcus and Natural Bridge. We are going to be once again providing a gas gift card for those who are bringing tires to put into those dumpsters. I would ask that my fellow brethren here at the Board of Aldermen please purchase some gas gift cards so that we can give those to people who are helping us to get the tires off of our streets. I want to acknowledge Alderwoman Sharon Tyus, who, when we did it in September last year, she came out in a big way and donated, I think, a couple of $100 of gift cards for that effort, and I am certainly appreciative. So thank you all, and we look forward to getting some more tires off of our streets on June the 29th.
Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, President Green and members of the board. My first announcement is that I'm glad that a few of us who were sick are back. Alderwoman Keys, I'm happy to see you back in action. I almost cried every time I saw you on the screen, and then I was crying for myself because I was sick too. So I'm glad that we're back, and I hope that Alderwoman Velasquez can join us too. I want to also just we had a very successful meeting in the Gate District at the Southside Wellness Center in regards to the Garvalia Development Project. There was around 50 neighbors who showed up, and I always love when we get an amazing turnout. And we had some conversations. We don't have a neighborhood organization in the area that the project is in, so as Alderwoman, I've had to kind of step up and do some of the work we might usually go as structures for, but we had some great conversations around what preservation looks like, and the developer has agreed to make sure that they preserve both the Garvalia sign and the 7-Up sign that was there, and a slew of other things that were outlined in the packet. And we also talked about some zoning variances as far as the zone C multifamily, so they need that to be changed. They also need a zoning change in order for them to preserve the sign. And so just to kind of give an update on that and thank neighbors and thank Mangrove Development for coming out and making themselves available for that conversation. And then as usual, my third announcement is to my colleagues about the plat and petition reform and the zoning companion bill in regards to shelters. You all do have drafts in your emails. I've been having conversations with many of you, so thank you. But again, it's time for us to talk. It's time for us to touch base on it, to talk about what you want to see. It's not filed yet, so we can make all the changes we want to. And also, any space that you would like to have me in your community, please know that I'm happy to show up, whether that be a town hall, a neighborhood meeting, or any space like that. And also want to thank members of the administration for some of our early conversations around this bill. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. All members were present this morning.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Must be trying to stay. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adjourn until Friday, June 14th, 2024, Board of Aldermen Chambers.
Moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adjourn until Friday, June 14th, 2024 in the Board of Aldermen Chambers. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.